This is one of over 500 assisted PNF stretching demonstrations that can be found as part of my 80 Days to Your Dream Body course, which is available to my channel members. If you'd like to see all of them, then consider becoming a member. But for right now, let's get our stretch on. And while we're resting, it is time to continue with our assisted PNF stretching demonstration at the glenohumeral joint. And for this stretch, we are going to be focusing primarily on the middle deltoid as well as the supraspinatus. So we're going to be focusing on the coronal shoulder abductors, abductors, the muscles that bring the arm out away from the midline. With regard to the positioning, we have a couple of different hand options. But for this one, we want to make sure that the humerus is in a neutral position. We don't want the patient in medial or lateral shoulder rotation. And for this one, we want to straighten out the patient's arm. That way we have just enough space to clear the body. That way we can take them into coronal abduction to target those abductors. With regard to the hand positioning, we want one hand at the acromion to stabilize. And then with the moving hand, we could either go at the distal humerus or the distal radius and ulna. If you have a very, very small, tiny patient, you could go at the distal humerus and it's going to be perfectly fine. You're going to be able to get a good amount of leverage. If you have somebody who's very, very large and strong and you are very, very small and you're not particularly strong, then you could go at the distal humerus or the distal radius and ulna. That way you'll have a better leverage point to be able to take them deeper into coronal shoulder abduction. However, if you do go at the distal radius and ulna, you're also going to be getting some other muscles involved, and you run the risk of creating a little bit of torque at the elbow. So for me, I would rather just go right at the proximal radius and at the distal humerus for this particular variation. But I would go take them into slight extension, take them deep into coronal abduction by bringing the arm just behind the back. And then I would instruct the patient to inhale and bring your arm up to the sky. They would inhale and they would go into coronal shoulder abduction by bringing the arm up. And then as they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create some space and sink down and take them deep into coronal shoulder abduction. When we are focusing on the coronal shoulder abductors at zero with no medial or lateral rotation, primarily the emphasis is going to be on the middle deltoid as well as the supraspinatus. Some other muscles that we will be getting involvement in is the anterior and posterior deltoid. The anterior deltoid is also a flexor and medial rotator of the shoulder, and the posterior deltoid is also an extensor and lateral shoulder rotator. So we're only targeting one out of their three main actions. But for the anterior deltoid, when we are in a neutral position going into coronal abduction, we're going to be targeting more of the lateral or the posterior fibers of the anterior deltoid. And for the posterior deltoid, we're going to be targeting more of the lateral or the anterior fibers of the posterior deltoid. But the main emphasis in this position is going to be on that middle deltoid and the supraspinatus. During the next rest period, we're going to be working on the horizontal adductors, the muscles that bring the arm in toward the midline. So we're going to start getting into the pecs. But for right now, our rest period is up. Time for set number 7. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.